Lucy, have you ever met someone who understands everything you say in English, but when it's their turn to speak, they just freeze? Or maybe they speak, but it's really hesitant.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, Jane. It's like a mental block, isn't it? And honestly, I've been there myself. For a long time, I could read complex articles, watch movies without subtitles, but when it came to a real conversation, my brain just went blank.
Right? It's such a common experience for so many English learners. They've spent years absorbing vocabulary and grammar, but the active production part feels like a completely different skill. It's almost like they're waiting for the perfect sentence to form in their head before they even open their mouth.
Exactly. And by the time that perfect sentence is ready, the conversation has moved on. Or you just feel too embarrassed to say anything. It's a vicious cycle of fear and self-consciousness.
Well, today on English with Speak Smart, we want to tackle that head on. We've got 8 powerful tips to help you unlock your English voice, move past that understanding but not speaking stage, and actually start communicating with confidence. These are things we've seen work for countless students, and honestly, they've worked for me too in different language learning journeys.
I'm excited about this because I know so many listeners are nodding their heads right now, thinking, yes, that's me. So where do we even begin, Jane? What's the very first step to breaking free from this?
All right, tip number 1, and this is foundational. Embrace imperfection and silence your inner critic. Seriously, this is huge. Most learners are so afraid of making mistakes that they don't even try. They worry about grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary choices, and that worry paralyzes them.
Oh, that's so true. I used to spend minutes trying to construct a sentence perfectly in my head before I dared to utter a single word. And guess what? It rarely came out perfectly anyway, and then I felt even worse.
Exactly. The goal isn't perfection, it's communication. Think about native speakers, Lucy. Do we always use perfect grammar? Do we always have the most eloquent vocabulary? No way. We stumble, we use filler words, we make grammatical errors, especially in casual conversation. The key is to get your message across.
That's a really important distinction. It's not about sounding like a dictionary, it's about connecting with someone. So how do you actually embrace imperfection in practice? Is it just telling yourself not to worry?
It starts with that mindset shift, yes, but practically it means allowing yourself to speak even if you know it's not perfect. It means accepting that mistakes are part of the learning process. View them as data points, not failures. Every mistake you make tells you something about what you need to work on. It's information, not judgment.
I like that. Data points. That takes a lot of the pressure off. So once we've told our inner critic to take a break, what's the next step? How do we actually start getting those words out?
Okay, tip number 2 is start speaking, even if it's just to yourself, and do it consistently. You don't need a conversation partner to begin. You can narrate your day in English, describe what you're doing while you're doing it. I'm making coffee now. First, I need to get the mug, then I'll pour the water into the kettle. Simple stuff.
That's actually brilliant. I remember trying that, but I felt a bit silly talking to myself. But if you frame it as practice, it makes so much sense. It's like a mental workout for your speaking muscles.
Exactly. And another great technique for this is shadowing. This is where you listen to a short audio clip, a podcast, a YouTube video, a movie scene, and you repeat what you hear almost simultaneously. Try to match the pronunciation, the rhythm, the intonation. It's not about understanding every word, but about mimicking the sound.
Oh, shadowing. I've heard of that. So it's like mirroring a native speaker? Does it really help with fluency and getting rid of that awkward pause before you speak?
Absolutely. It trains your mouth and brain to produce English sounds and patterns without having to think too much. It builds muscle memory. It helps you get comfortable with the physical act of speaking English. And the best part is, no one is listening, so there's zero pressure.
That's a relief for sure. Okay, so we're embracing imperfection and speaking to ourselves. What's the next step once we feel a little more comfortable doing that?
All right, tip number 3 is find a language exchange partner or join a speaking group. This is where you actually put those internal practice sessions to the test. Look for someone who is also learning English or someone who wants to learn your native language. There are tons of apps and online communities for this.
I think this is where a lot of people get stuck again, though. They find a partner, but then they're still too nervous to speak, or they don't know what to talk about. How do you make that initial connection and keep the conversation flowing?
Good point. A few things there. First, manage expectations. Your first few conversations might be awkward, and that's perfectly fine. Second, prepare some topics or questions beforehand. What did you do today? What are your hobbies? What's your favorite movie? Simple, open-ended questions. And third, choose someone you feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to be a teacher, it can be a peer. The goal is low-stakes, frequent practice.
I found that even just talking about what you ate for breakfast can be a huge victory when you're starting out. It sounds silly, but it builds confidence, right?
Absolutely. Every word you say, every sentence you form is a win. And if you can find a group, even better. The pressure is distributed, and you get to hear different accents and speaking styles. It's incredibly enriching.
Okay, so once we're actively speaking, what's next? How do we build on that momentum and not just plateau?
That leads us to tip number 4. Actively immerse yourself, don't just passively listen. Many people consume a lot of English media, which is great for understanding, but they don't engage with it actively. To improve speaking, you need to turn passive input into active output.
What's the difference between passive and active immersion then? Because I thought just listening to podcasts and watching Netflix was immersion.
Passive immersion is just letting the English wash over you, watching a movie in the background, listening to music without really focusing on lyrics. Active immersion means you're doing something with the language. For speaking, this means pausing a podcast to summarize what you just heard aloud, or repeating interesting phrases. It means watching a scene from a show and then trying to reenact it or describe what happened in your own words.
Ah, I see. So it's taking what you understand and immediately trying to produce it. That makes a lot of sense. It bridges that gap between understanding and speaking.
Exactly. You're turning input into output. You hear a great idiom, try to use it later in your internal monologue or with your language partner. You watch a character express surprise, practice saying, "Wow, that's incredible," with the same intonation. It's about imitation and application.
That's super helpful. I'm already thinking of ways to integrate that into my daily routine. What about vocabulary? I know a lot of words, but they don't always come to mind when I'm speaking.
That brings us to tip number 5. Focus on common phrases and sentence patterns, not just individual words. Our brains store language in chunks, not just isolated words. Think about "how are you?" or "what's up?" or "could you please pass the salt?" We don't construct those word by word, we use them as ready-made units.
Oh, that's so true. I never really thought about it that way. When I'm speaking my native language, I don't think about each individual word. The whole phrase just comes out.
Right, so instead of learning difficult and situations separately, learn a difficult situation. Instead of feel and better, learn I feel much better now. This is called chunking. It makes your speaking much more natural and fluent because you're retrieving larger units of language from your memory, reducing the cognitive load of constructing sentences from scratch.
That's brilliant. So instead of just flashcards with single words, I should be looking for common collocations and whole phrases to learn and practice. That'll definitely speed things up and make my speech sound more native-like.
Exactly. And where do you find these chunks? Everywhere. In podcasts, movies, books. Pay attention to how native speakers combine words. It's not just about what words they use, but how they string them together.
Okay, so we're building up our phrase bank. What's tip number 6 to really refine our speaking?
Tip number 6 is record yourself speaking and listen back. I know, many people cringe at the sound of their own voice, myself included sometimes. But this is incredibly powerful. When you're speaking, your brain is so busy forming thoughts and sentences that you often don't catch your own mistakes or patterns.
Ugh, I totally get the cringe factor, but I can see how it would be useful. It's like being your own teacher, right? You can identify areas where you need to improve without the pressure of a live conversation.
Precisely. You can hear your pronunciation, your intonation, your pauses, where you hesitate. You might notice you overuse a certain filler word, or that you consistently mispronounce a vowel sound. You can also track your progress. Listen to a recording from a month ago and compare it to today's. You'll be amazed at how much you've improved.
That's actually really motivating. I can imagine feeling really proud when I hear my progress. Do you have any suggestions on what to record, besides just talking to myself?
Sure, you could record yourself summarizing an article you just read, or telling a story about your day, or even answering some common interview questions. The key is to speak for a minute or two and then critically listen. Don't beat yourself up, just identify 1 or 2 things to focus on for your next practice session.
That makes it much less daunting. Just focus on one thing. Okay, so we've got 6 tips already. What's number 7?
Tip number 7. Don't translate in your head. This is a huge trap for many learners. They hear English, translate it to their native language, form a response in their native language, then translate that back to English before speaking. This causes massive delays and makes you sound hesitant.
Oh my goodness, this is me. This is exactly what I do. It's like my brain has this whole internal switchboard, constantly translating back and forth. How do you stop doing that? It feels so automatic.
It takes practice, but the earlier tips help. When you're speaking to yourself or shadowing, try to consciously think in English, even if it's just basic words or phrases. If you see a dog, think dog, not the word in your native language and then dog. When you're describing your day, try to form the sentences directly in English, even if they're simple or imperfect.
So it's about forcing your brain to operate directly in English, even if it feels clunky at first. I imagine this links back to the chunking idea too, right? If you learn phrases as units, you're not translating individual words.
Exactly. If you know how are you as one unit, you don't translate how then are then you, it just comes out. This direct thinking takes time, but it dramatically increases your fluency and reduces hesitation. Start with simple concepts and build up.
This one feels like a game changer. It's hard, but I can see how powerful it would be. Okay, we've got one more tip. What's the final piece of the puzzle?
Our final tip, number 8, is set realistic and achievable speaking goals. Don't tell yourself, I'm going to be perfectly fluent in a month. That's overwhelming and sets you up for disappointment. Instead, set small, actionable goals.
Like what kind of goals? Can you give us some examples? Because being fluent does feel really vague and scary.
Sure. Instead of be fluent, try this week I will have a 5-minute conversation with my language partner about my weekend. Or every day for 10 minutes I will narrate my actions in English while I cook. Or I will record myself speaking for 2 minutes 3 times this week and listen back. These are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. SMART goals, you know?
Oh, I love that. SMART goals applied to English speaking. That makes so much more sense. It's about celebrating those small victories, isn't it? Rather than just waiting for some magical moment of fluency to appear.
Exactly. Each small win builds confidence, and that confidence fuels more practice, creating a positive feedback loop. Remember, consistency beats intensity every single time. A little bit of practice every day is far more effective than cramming for hours once a week.
Wow, Jane, these 8 tips are truly powerful. I feel like we've covered so much ground here, from the mental blocks to practical daily habits. To recap, we're talking about embracing imperfection, speaking to ourselves, finding a partner, active immersion, focusing on chunks, recording ourselves, not translating, and setting SMART goals.
That's right, and the biggest takeaway here is that speaking is a skill. And like any skill, it requires practice. You wouldn't expect to become a great musician just by listening to music, right? You have to pick up an instrument and play. English speaking is no different.
That's such a great analogy. It really puts it into perspective. So for anyone out there listening who understands English perfectly but just can't seem to get those words out, know that you're not alone, and more importantly, know that you absolutely can unlock your English voice.
You really can. Start small, be consistent, and be kind to yourself. Every word counts. Every mistake is a learning opportunity. We believe in you. Thanks for tuning in to English with Speak Smart. We hope these tips help you on your journey.
Absolutely. We'll catch you next time. Keep practicing, everyone.